this evening's webinar. Thank you all for coming. Just before we get cracking, I'm just going to do a quick karakia, introduce myself, and then we'll get started. Oh, gone too far already. That's a good start. Kia ora ti marino, kia whakapapa pounamu ti moana. He huarahi mā tātou I te rangi nei, aroha atu, aroha mai, tātou I a tātou katoa, hui e taikie. Ko nanga taha te maunga, ko utahina te awa, ko Sport Waitākere aho I mahi ana, ko te kai whakahaere ha kenakena taku turanga, ko David George taku ingoa. So kia ora everyone, welcome in. My name's Dave George. I'm the Community Sport Manager here at Sport Waitākere. We're going to be taking you through the presentation around Tū Manawa this evening, I was about to say this morning. And then, yeah, we're going to open the floor for some questions a bit later on. So unfortunately, there'll probably be a bit of talking for a while, so you have to hear a bit of my voice. So hopefully you've all got a coffee or some kind of bubbly liquid next to you just to keep you happy for a while. In the meantime, can I ask everyone, if you kind of hover over your little picture, you'll see three little buttons in the top right. If you click that, and then you'll see a little drop down that says rename. Can I ask you all to put your name and then the sports club or community organisation or school or whatever you're from just by the side there, just so we can see who is in attendance, and then as we ask questions we can try and fit the answer to your setting. I'll give you all a quick minute to do that. Okie dokie. Okay, so Tū Manawa, let's start from the start. What does Tū Manawa mean? So Tū means to stand and Manawa means breath. So in the context of play, active recreation and sport, the name calls to all New Zealanders to live Sport New Zealand's vision of everybody being active, and this is really targeted at our tamariki and our rangatahi. In terms of the way that this webinar will work, what we'll do is I'll run through all of the information that I've got, and that could be a good 15 to 20 minutes, and then I'll welcome questions at the end, because I would suggest that a lot of the questions that are coming through, that came through in the registration process, we've tried to incorporate them into the information within the webinar. So hopefully that answers your questions for now, and then any more specific questions will come on to them. Okie dokie. So as I mentioned, we're going to go through Tū Manawa Active Aotearoa, who is it for, what it can and can't fund, a bit of who's who in terms of where the different funders sit in terms of who's managing what fund, I mean, and then a bit of around the marketing and communications that are out there where you can get some more information. And also we're going to do a really quick once over of the application form, and then we'll open the floors for questions, ideas, and some further kōrero. As we go through, I'm sure you're all well versed in Zoom and Teams and all these different bits and pieces now. So if you want to use the chat function just to write any questions down, there's a team of 5 or 6 here from Sport Waitākere who will just be picking up those questions. And then if we don't answer them during the presentation, we'll pick them up at the end for you. Okay, so what is Tū Manawa? It's a $68 million activation fund. Over 4 years, providing quality opportunities for experience for play, active recreation and sport for tamariki and rangatahi. It's a brand new fund created not quite in place of Kiwi Sport, but it is a new fund for this sector. It doesn't affect any of the Kiwi Sport money. If there's any schools or schools people in here or people that are trying to access schools, they still get their Kiwi Sport direct money that they've always got. This is a totally different fund that complements that, I guess. It's managed and distributed locally by regional sports trusts. That's what RST stand for. So that's Sport Waitākere, Sport Auckland, Harbour Sport, CLM Community Sport, and Active in Auckland. It's a $16 million regional fund per annum. At the moment, as I go through the information, you'll find that actually this is just focused on a 1-year fund at the moment. And there it is, the last point, established for 1 year, 30th of June 2021. So who is it for? Tū Manawa is, as I mentioned, for tamariki and rangatahi, specifically targeting children and young people in higher deprivation communities, aged 5 to 18, girls and young women, aged 5 to 24, and disabled children and young people, aged 5 to 18. These priority groups will continually be reviewed year on year, with the next review being at the end of the current funding round. Who can apply? This table I'm sure would have all seen across social media platforms and the websites that have been advertising it. So you need to be a legal entity. with the primary purpose of your organisation providing play, active recreation and or sport. Play, active recreation or sport is an important and mandated part of what your organisation does. You present play, active recreation or sport in a kaupapa Māori context, and you can demonstrate a relationship and impact with working with some of those priority groups I've just mentioned. Okay. What's different to Kiwi sport? So the focus has broadened to include play and active recreation. Previously it was just organised sport. There's a real focus around quality, quality being making sure that whatever it is done to the best ability to make sure that opportunities and experiences that our young people have will make them coming back time and time again. 3 key approaches from Sport New Zealand. One's called Insights, one's called Physical Literacy, and one's called Locally Led. Essentially what the Insights and Locally Led approaches mean is that we really want to get the information and the need nailed from our community. So we're not just delivering things for the sake of delivering things. There's a real need from our community or our tamariki or rangatahi, and they've said that this is the thing they want, so that's the evidence we need to go and deliver it. Greater clarity around the in-school delivery. I think this has always been a bit of a grey area with Kiwi sport. It's different across different areas, whereas now they're really trying to ensure that schools are really involved in the planning around whatever happens in curriculum time. I'll come on to the guidance document in a short while. I mentioned just before the clearly identified needs, so we'll really be looking out for that in the application form to make sure that whatever it is that's being delivered has been asked for by the community that's going to be delivered into. There is more money. Previously there was $8.5 million, there's now 16 million, so just under double for us in West Auckland. I'll come on to those figures a bit later on, but we've been fortunate enough to almost triple the amount of money we've got in West Auckland. And stronger focus on innovative ways to activate our tamariki and rangatahi, get more kaupapa Māori organisations accessing the funding, and yeah, really ensuring that we're telling a story about what the funding's doing in our community a lot better. There are a couple of questions that came through the registration process about what is play and active recreation. I have pulled down the what Sport New Zealand has defined it as. So play, intrinsically motivated, it's spontaneous and will happen anywhere. It's personally directed, it has limited or no adult involvement, and it's freely chosen. So it has no predetermined outcome and is self-determined. Active recreation. So this is what Sport New Zealand describe as non-competitive physical activity for the purpose of well-being and enjoyment. It includes activities in built, landscaped and natural environments, is undertaken by individuals and groups, and occurs with and without the involvement of a provider group or organisation. One point I should have mentioned right at the start actually is that I want to be really clear to everyone that this is a brand new fund. There's a brand new set of criteria around it, and as part of that we're learning in the same way that our community is learning. So we won't have the absolute definition for everything in terms of actually what it is we're trying to achieve within the community, but working together we'll figure that out, and we'll become more and more clear on it. So what can be funded? Programs or projects based on identified needs. We'll keep coming back to that because it's really important that the community defines what they need. Locally led. So you can fund program or project delivery. That's venue or equipment hire, transport to an event. Equipment as part of a program or project. Officials where are required for delivery staff wages, e.g. activity leader or coordinator, and they have to be directly attributable to the project. So what I mean by that is, and this is a big question that's coming up, what do these coordinator costs mean? They have to be directly attributable to the project that you're delivering. So we're not just kind of paying for a coordinator to do business as usual. This is about what we're trying to deliver and the costs linked to that. New or existing projects, so something you're already delivering or something that is brand new, or innovative and creative projects. What can't be funded? Cost of retrospective programs. So any program you already delivered or plan to deliver, we can't fund that. Multi-year programs at this stage, really important at this stage. So I mentioned before, this is a 4-year fund, but in actual fact, Sport New Zealand are really focusing, in part due to the kind of COVID response, that this is a real 1-year targeted fund. So just at the moment, all applications have a 1-year lifespan to them. Any costs associated with professional athletes, professional sports teams, academies, or representative teams cannot be funded. Any capital costs, can't build anything with this money. Wages and annual salaries for staff who are not involved in the planning or delivery of the project. Medals, prizes, giveaways and spot prizes, and any organisations who already receive Sport New Zealand partnership investment are ineligible to apply also. So any funding that comes through Sport New Zealand that is directly for partnership investment, those organisations can't apply. This is the local board map. The reason I wanted to put this up was because I wanted to be clear on where the boundaries were. So this map itself is actually on, should be on all the regional sports trust websites. It's also on Active's website, and just gives you an idea of where, what local boards each of the regional sports trusts cover. So when you're applying for your project, you can say, okay, we're delivering in Henderson Massey Board local area, so you know that sits in Sport Waitākere and you'll be applying to us for the funding. If you're straddling a boundary, that's absolutely fine. So if you're delivering in, say, Rodney or Upper Harbour Local Board and Henderson Massey, and obviously that goes across 2 local boards, then you'll be applying to the regional fund. So who's who in Tū Manawa? Sport New Zealand are the national funder, so they pass the funding down to Active Auckland Sport and Recreation. Active then divvy that out to the local regional sports trusts. Our allocation is allocated by Sport New Zealand. And we take 20% of our money and we give that basically back to Active, and then they administer the regional pot. So that's what I mentioned before about any applications that straddle boundaries, whether that be 2 RSTs or all 4 or 3, it doesn't really matter. And then the local fund is what we manage locally. So these are projects that are based only in West Auckland. They can be across multiple local boards within West Auckland. That's totally fine. That's still ours. And obviously, as I mentioned before, our local boards are Henderson, Massey, Foam, Waitakere Rangers. So just a reminder there that that is delivery within those areas. So you physically can be located, you know, outside of that space, but if all the delivery is happening in, say, Henderson, Massey, then that's where the project is based. If that was confusing, which I'm sure it is, please come and ask us first, because it's quite, you know, they're different boundaries to often what people think they are. For example, we've already had an application from someone in Mount Albert, and Mount Albert is actually officially in the Sport Auckland area. So if you're confused as to where maybe your project might land, just give us a call and we can chat through that, no problem. So in terms of the quantums, West Auckland, we were allocated just over $1 million. It was actually about 1,300,000, I think. And we take 20% off that, and that goes back to Active for that regional fund that we mentioned before. So all the regional sports trusts do the same. And then at a local level, we have 2 funds which you can access. The first one is the local fund. So this is for applications over $10,000 and 1 cent, just to make that clear. So over $10,000 and 1 cent. And there are 2 windows to get into this fund. The current one is open. This is all the kind of media you'd see at the moment, and that closes on the 12th of October. And then the second one opens in about January, February time. So if you keep an eye on the website, all of those dates will become known. And then you've got the fast fund, which is the one here we've got for 20% of the fund. So that's for applications under $10,000 and under. And that fund is open until it's exhausted. So you can apply for that at any time during the year. The fast fund, we look to turn around applications in about 15 working days, and with the local fund, we're looking at about 20, 25 working days is what the aim is. Obviously, we're trying our best to do that. When we get large amounts of applications, it does make it difficult, but certainly you should be hearing about the success or otherwise of your application within 15 working days of the fast fund and 25 working days of the local fund. You'll see just down the bottom there the allocations for the other areas. So counties Manukau, CLM Community Sport, got just under $2 million. Harbour Sport for the North Shore area, 196,000. Sport Auckland have got 997,000, and the regional pot, which is that one, the Active control that sits across the multiple boundaries, is 989,000. Now, I know there might be a few people looking at that harbour sport amount and thinking that's a bit odd. How do these allocations come about? So it was actually Sport New Zealand working with Otago University. They did some work around a deprivation index, and these are the numbers that they came up with. So totally out of our control, but that's what we've presented with across the Auckland context. Marketing and communications, so we're constantly trying to put out information about this to let you know when different rounds are. Obviously, we're going to be creating stories about what different people are doing, so you can understand what other people are using the funding for and what communities they're delivering into. So 3 key ones for you to know: the Sport Waitākere e-pānui. So if you just go onto our website, at the top there, you'll see the subscribe button. There's also on the Sport Waitākere Facebook page, and then we've also got the West Auckland Club Leaders Network. Obviously, just targeted at clubs, that one, but we're really looking for people to get involved in both of these two at the bottom if you want more information more regularly. And obviously, you can pick up the phone to us or email us at any time. You'll also see a variety of marketing messages that'll go out there. So you'll notice that there's a whole different bunch of languages here. The application itself is actually only in English at the moment. However, we are trying to get as much community support as we can, particularly for those communities who maybe haven't accessed this funding before, need some kind of translation services. If that is you, or that's an organisation you're working with that you want some more information about, please do get in contact with us, and where we can, we will support those communities to apply. So the application form, if you jump onto our website, if you haven't been there already, up the top there's a little funding tab. If you click on that, below that you'll see the Tū Manawa drop down, and then when you go onto the Tū Manawa page, this is essentially what it looks like. There's a whole host of information. I've just taken a snippet of the top and the bottom of the website here. At the top, you've got the main information, and then down the bottom are a bunch of guidelines, fact sheets, FAQs, and then the all-important Apply Now button. So I'll come back on some of those additional bits of documentation in a second. When you click the Apply Now button, you will come to this portal, the application portal. So on this, you will notice that you have been redirected to the active website. Essentially, there's one portal no matter where you're applying for in Auckland. So it's all the same. Don't think you've been taken somewhere else, because when you actually go through the application itself, you can identify where you're going to be doing the delivery. Before we go on to that, we'll come back. I'm just going to run very quickly through the application form. Quickly enough that you can all. So the application form itself, as I mentioned, is this. It is this online version. It all looks very fancy, and you don't have to worry too much about this Word version. But this Word version we pulled up here basically is the other questions just pulled down, so they're a bit easier to see. So starting from the top, very straightforward. Where are you delivering the project? Who your organisation name is? Your website and social media account. Question 4, tell us the purpose of your organisation and what you do. So this is just about who you are as an organisation. You would have seen me at the start mention that your organisation has to have the purpose of delivering sport, play, physical activity, or in a kaupapa Māori context, and a few other things. So this is where we want to see that kind of evidence base. Your address, and then there's a few drop downs. So one around what type of organisation you are. Putting in your New Zealand business number or incorporated society number, who are the key contact person at your club or your organisation is, or your school. So this is the person who will essentially be getting the kind of comms back and forward about this. Your GST number if you're GST registered, your bank account name and your bank account number. We will ask for photographic evidence of your organisation's bank account number. That's just to make sure that obviously it is an official bank account number and you're not applying and then sticking the money in your back pocket sort of thing. So that can be anything from a physical kind of screenshot of the club or school or organisation's bank account, or a deposit slip, anything like that that proves that that's the bank account number attached to the bank account. Then we get on to some of the project information. So what is your project or program name? A summary in 250 words about the name of your what your project is, where it will occur, and who you'll be working with. What type of physical activity does your project involve? So remember, there's play, active recreation, and sport. Is this application being submitted for a project or program that is provided in a kaupapa Māori context? Now, just as a flag there, we're really keen on getting more of this funding into some of our Māori communities. We've got a framework that sits behind our I guess our work in that context, particularly with this fund called Te Whetū Rehua. This is designed by Sport New Zealand and is a way of us telling quite how kaupapa Māori the project or the program is. It gives a score and we'll use that to assess against what you're trying to deliver. Don't let that put anyone off applying to think that it's a low score, it won't get funded or anything like that. It's actually our way of telling how we can support organisations to really make sure that their project or program is more or can be supported to be more responsive to our Māori communities. Okay, question 19, what are the proposed dates for your project or program? As I mentioned before, this is only for 12 months. Now, the delivery from basically the day you receive the funding, that's when the 12-month clock starts. So you've got 12 months to deliver beyond that date. So it's not from say the 1st of July type thing to the 30th of June. It's actually from the day you receive that contract and it's signed, 12 months starts. Is this a new, existing or modified project? Again, it's just a drop down. What setting will your project or program take place in? Now, if you click the school setting or the kura setting, you will come to question 22, which asks for, sorry, this is if you're delivering in-class time in that setting, support documentation to accompany school setting applications. I'll come back to that shortly. If you're delivering in lunchtime, before school, after school, on the school grounds, but on the weekends, you don't need that documentation. So it's not affecting curriculum time. Identify who your project or program aims to positively impact on. You can multi-select in here. So if you're aiming for, girls and disabilities, you can tick both those boxes, or if there's any others, you can write those in. Again, the insights led, I've mentioned this right at the start. How do you know the project or program is needed? Who have you spoken to, or what evidence or insights have you had? Experience tells us there's a lot of people who put in applications because it's something that they've kind of always done that's always the same, but it doesn't necessarily have the required evidence or need from the community. So one of the real key things we want to know is, how do you know that the people you're delivering this project to actually want the project you're trying to deliver to them? What are the key changes to the outcomes your program is trying to bring about and with the communities you're working with? So an outcome relates to the changes that take place as a result of your program. So for example here, improvement in physical activity levels to participation or attendance, confidence of participants, community connection, cultural knowledge, access to opportunities, etc. Also, we're going to ask, how will you know you've achieved them? So actually, we want to know how you're going to find that information out. So if you're saying that we want to see that, our participants are gaining confidence or that their communities are more connected, how can you provide the evidence to show that's happened? Are you doing surveys? Are you going to do one at the start to say, what are your kind of, where are you at on this scale? And then at the end, do the same thing and actually show the, increase in whatever it might be. So yeah, have a think about that. Who will you be working with to deliver this program? If there's any kind of partner organizations or anything like that, please put them in there. We're really encouraging partnership working across Tū Manawa. Then we will ask for a couple of uploads around your compliance with various regulations. So Health and Safety, Vulnerable Children Act. What we really want to see here is that your organization or your club or your school or whatever it might be has adopted a set of regulations or compliance documents that actually show that when you go out to do your delivery, you've got health and safety in mind. You've acknowledged the Vulnerable Children's Act. We don't necessarily just want you to go to the, whatever website and pull down a health and safety thing and say, yep, here it is. We actually want to see where that's been adopted by your organization. So any good organization that's delivering into schools, into, to the community, whatever it might be, you should have a health and safety plan, and that's the kind of thing we want to see to make sure that whatever we're funding, you've really thought about what you're doing, and if any, God forbid any kind of thing happens, you've got things in place to mitigate all of those things. The money side, what is the total cost of your project or program? And what amount are you applying for from Tū Manawa? And then we want you to upload your budget. We have already had some questions around the budget itself, particularly around what does the budget look like and what kind of information are you looking for. So we will work behind the scenes to actually pull together a bit of a template, and that template you can literally pop your numbers into, and then it works as a bit of a budget for you to upload. We will normally get a variety of what they look like, but as I say, if you're struggling with that at all, please pick up the phone or an email and we can talk you through what that looks like. If there's a difference in the cost and the amount you're requesting, how do you intend to fund the outstanding amounts? So for example, if it's a $10,000 project and you're only asking for $8,000, we'd be interested to know where you're getting that $2,000 from to make up the difference. And then just at the end there, a bunch again of kind of compliancy questions, making sure that you're authorized to submit the application on behalf of the organization, you've read the guidelines, you comply with the requirements about protecting your information, and you confirm that the information is correct. So the last document I was just going to share is the school guideline document, which I mentioned before. Can you see the steps? So this is the guideline document that basically we would ask that you take to a, I'll make it bigger for you, that you would take with you to talk to a school just to make sure that whatever you're delivering in that space, in that curriculum time, is aligned to what the school is trying to achieve. Now, this has come out of historical delivery where maybe things have gone into schools and they haven't quite matched up with, you know, what the school's trying to deliver and what those what that local kind of approach is. So remember, this is a guidance document. We would want the name of the school or kura lead of the project or program, sorry, the applicant, and then, sorry, the applicant goes a bit further down, but the actual school. So if you're delivering into one school, we're happy for the one school to put their name on here. If you're delivering into a cluster of schools, we'd like to see the cluster on there. So rather than one form per school necessarily, we're happy to have one with a combined approach on it. And here are the questions down below that should guide your thinking. So is there a clear vision and purpose for what you're trying to deliver based on student needs? Does it align with the kura's values? Does it align with the curriculum outcomes that they're trying to achieve? And a few other questions around, like I said, alignment to New Zealand curriculum, to Mātauranga or Aotearoa. Yeah, definitely worth having a read through that first. And if you want any support, whether you're talking to schools or support with that conversation with schools, we're happy to supply that as well. So please do reach out. All of that information is available on the website as well. Okay, so that's everything immediately, and I know that was a lot to take in, and I apologize that I just kind of threw all that at you. I appreciate that's a lot of information. So what we're going to do now is we're going to move to the chat room. My trusty sidekick, the Pika. See if there's any questions that have come up through there. Okay, well, while she's answering that, what I'll do is, are there any immediate questions that come up from anyone? Just unmute yourself. And if that doesn't work, we'll go back to a put your hand up type approach. But any immediate questions?
Mine's a super basic one, and you might have actually already covered it. Sorry. So for our delivery, we generally deliver in two places. One, we use Whenuapai Primary School. We use their pump track for the first few sessions of our program, and then we move to Woodhill Mountain Bike Park. So we're not actually, we're using school equipment, not in school curriculum time. So that that's no to the schools portion of the questions.
Yeah, so that's just, you don't need to fill in that that school guidance document. No, yeah. I mean, that doesn't preclude you from obviously talking to the schools to have that conversation, but we wouldn't be looking for the guidance document as part of your application, no.
Yeah, so we have to get, like, we use school, we use their equipment, so they have to give us the keys to unlock their
Yep.
no man's land, and yeah.
Yeah, so we'd expect to see in the question where it says who are you partnering with, you know, the school on there, because you are essentially partnering with them. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
No problem. Okay.
Sorry, one more question.
Yes, yeah, go for it.
I have been in communication with Kids Can,
Mm-hmm.
and it's very broad at the moment. But so in terms of partnerships, we just make that as a comment that we are potentially, so that's that kits, and they've partnered with Cadbury of all people,
Yep. Mm-hmm.
but supplying kit for children that otherwise wouldn't be participating in the sport. So we just list all of those as part of our potential partnerships. And
Yeah, I think so. I think it kind of gives the bigger scope of your project, right?
Yeah.
So we can understand kind of the groups you're trying to access, and what kind of your network or what your net is you're throwing out to make sure that people are coming into your project. I mean, particularly for organizations like Kids Can, we understand that they work with you know, kids that are you know, deprived in various ways, and that actually yeah, that's perfectly what this fund is aimed at. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I'm just going to run down some of the questions in the chat room, see if anything pops out. Cherie Brown, can we get a copy of the PowerPoint? Yes, you can. I'm happy to do that. I'll also put that on the website. A couple of questions around that. Kate from Suburbs Cricket, only 12 months. Yes, Kate, sorry, I might have already mentioned this. The Sport New Zealand have decided that, obviously in response to COVID, what they're trying to do is really nail this project for year one, and it's brand new, and that they want to just make sure that, you know, everything runs according to plan. So Tū Manawa itself is a 4-year program, but for the first year, they've mandated that all projects can only have a 12-month life cycle. So that's not to say that in subsequent years that we can't grow that application or make that project bigger. It's just that for the time being, we can only plan for a 12-month delivery window. 12 months, fellas being recorded. We talked about that. Possible multi-year funding, Aroha, yeah, mentioned that one. Yes, we'll record the presentation and put it up. Might get you to sleep, I'm sure. YouTube, yet to be said that. How are the amounts decided across the different regions, according to the number of children and young people in that region, or where the need was identified? Yes, Mike, sorry, I did answer that. Yep, no, that was Otago University. They ran a deprivation index across it, and that's how Sport New Zealand came to that decision. Are applications that show co-funding likely to be more successful? Yeah, I think we look very fondly upon those projects that are, you know, looking real true partnership, whether that be kind of financial or otherwise. So I'm not sure if I'd say they're likely to be more successful, but certainly we would look fondly upon those, I guess, because it's leading potentially to more of that sustainability factor around, you know, not just reliance on one source or one partner. Cheryl from Squad 180, yes, that form is only needed if you're delivering in curriculum time. Where can we find the school's document, Christy? It'll be on our website. Point you all to that one very shortly. Where else have we got? Can you apply for both funds, but for different aspects of the same program? Fast fund for now, for the part we now can deliver, and then the local fund for the larger expanded program we still need to develop. Yeah, I think I'm a bit of a fan of that, Karen. I think what you're actually using that fast fund for as well is to do a bit of a tester, and then when you came back for the local fund, potentially you could come back and say, look, this is what we've learned through the delivery of the first portion of the contract, first portion of the funding, and that actually moving forward, maybe we're pivoting that ever so slightly just to match precisely what it is that the community wants. So yeah, I mean, that is a double application process, and just because you've got fast fund doesn't necessarily mean you will get local fund or vice versa, but certainly I think that's a good approach. Marge, does active recreation include planting plants as part of an ecological restoration, or being out in the habitat and check-in setting for traps and rats, etc.? Yeah, good question. I mean, I guess what does active recreation mean? I think I'll have to get back to you on that, because of the understanding I have that that might not fit within Sport New Zealand in terms of physical kind of ongoing physical active recreation. But then again, if you look at the definitions that they've put in terms of the I guess what is active recreation, it does fit those settings. So definitely get back to you. We'll make a note of that. Mike, in response to COVID, we see that a lot of neighbourhoods are taking action and doing more localised activations in parks and streets. Is there flexibility if a group isn't tied to a legal entity but meets requirements in the target audience? Is there a reason why Pacifica aren't a target audience? Okay, first question. Localised activations in parks and streets. That's actually a really good question. I think is potentially one of the little loopholes in terms of that whole play space, because often play is not something, I guess, you know, everyone does in terms of an actual incorporated society or a, you know, a for-profit business or whatever that is the, you know, requirements to get this funding. So we will get back to you about that, Mike, because I think that's the kind of thing we'd actually like to see, that real localized delivery. Is there a reason why Pacifica aren't a target audience? It's Sport New Zealand targets from across the country. We locally we know we've got a massive Pacifica whānau, and generally our population in West Auckland, along with Asian, particularly Chinese and Indians. So yeah, no, I think they're not a target audience, but I certainly think that if, you know, again, if you can target a space whereby we know there's high levels of deprivation, which are in a lot of our Pacifica communities, then that ticks the box as well for being a priority setting. Karen, other than kaupapa Māori, are there any specific targeted populations, i.e. those missing out? Yes, that's it really, Karen. I mean, we are looking for those who are in those areas of high deprivation, which often, unfortunately, lend themselves to certain populations. However, very much it's about those who aren't participating. So there's no specific targeted population as such, other than those missing out. Mike Tiffany, one shot to nail the application. Yeah, unfortunately at the moment, the application process online actually means once you hit submit, you know, it goes off and then there'll only be an approval decline. So what we're actually looking to do is the application form I just ran through before, the Word version, we're going to try and make that available. So when you pick that up and you can start to write away at it, you can actually then link in with a Sport Waitākere person and you can talk about the bits that might need a bit of support on. And then that goes into the uploads onto the application form online and then goes up. In terms of actually, if you got declined, does that mean you can't apply again? No, not at all. But everyone, if you get declined, will get feedback on what that reason was, and you're more than welcome to apply again in the future with, you know, using those recommendations. Can a component of the admin be applied for that is directly linked? For example, a person delivering some time from their manager. Yeah, if it's attributable to the project, so it's the person delivering the project itself or doing a bit of that kind of work to make that project happen, then that funding can be paid for by Tū Manawa. It just can't, just kind of administration in general, it can't be used for that. Kate Suburbs, can you apply for multiple projects with different partners? Yes, you can. It's just making sure that basically you're not trying to deliver the same thing to the same people. So if you're delivering different types of projects and in different places, then of course you can apply multiple times, yes. Debbie Raroa, our very own, but do you support applications through the process in terms of applications needing more work or support? Yes, we do support it. I would just recommend, like I mentioned before, please get the Word version and then work through that and then bounce your idea off a Sport Waitākere person before you put it online. Because as I say, the way that the template's set up at the moment, you're not able to save your progress like you are on other forms. So as you're going through it, if you kind of go through it and then hit submit, it goes off into the system and we're not able to reopen that. We have to basically start again from scratch. So please do make use of that Word document when we make it available online. Due to COVID-19, we have had to move our project to online delivery. Can we apply to the fund to the development of an app so that students can access the classes on their phones as well as web-based? Yeah, I mean, kind of we're moving that way, right? We've always held these workshops face to face, and here we are online with 45, 50 odd people. So I am not sure about app development. I certainly think there's something that we should start to look into around online delivery. I guess it's just making sure of quality outcomes, etc. Making sure that, you know, just because there's an app there, is the end product still quality? So that's a discussion that we need to have, and yeah, I think we'll definitely get back to you and everyone else, Shirley. Wendy from Alpha Cheerleading. If a group is applying to become an incorporated society but is not registered as of yet, can they apply? Unfortunately not. That is the rules that we've been passed down by Sport New Zealand. So if you're not incorporated society or you're not registered yet, then no, you cannot apply. You have to meet that criteria. What else have we got? Deborah, West Auckland in general is a high deprivation area. Yep, you're absolutely right. I mean, we shouldn't really struggle for places to deliver a lot of these projects, that's for sure. Karen Ross, Netball Northern, is there a dollar cap per code, i.e. football only get X amount of dollars annually in total? No, at the moment, there's been no discussions about any kind of caps, what you can and can't apply for. I think it's all just got to be really relevant to what you're delivering. I think bear in mind that there's a history of applications that we've had through Kiwi Sport, and we work closely with the kind of NZCTs and Foundation North of the world. So we kind of understand, broadly speaking, where a lot of these applications should be in terms of their costs. So as long as your cost looks really relevant for what you're trying to deliver, then I think, you know, that's what we're looking for in an application. So we're definitely not going down the line of saying anyone can only limit something to X amount of dollars per head. It's all about, you know, the relevance of the project. Okay, is there a closing date for regional applications? Yes, there is, and I believe it is a week before. We'll make sure we advertise that, because, sorry, just with regional applications, what's always happened is they've closed about a week or slightly more before. People will find that out for me right now. So that if you got declined from the regional application, you can actually drop down, so to speak, into the local application round. So obviously you would then have to, rather than straddling boundaries, you would then have to, you know, target or scale your operation back to fit one of the local areas. But certainly, certainly that's a possibility. Okay, that's all the questions on the chat. So 28th of September, Marge, the regional round closes. And then there's basically 14 days, so 2 weeks before the local round closes, you can apply for the regional round. Okie dokie. I think, yeah, that's a lot of me talking. So now I just want to really open the floor, guys. I mean, if anyone's got an idea in their head that they just want to spit out there and say, hey, do you think this would fly, or whatever it might be. I mean, as I mentioned kind of halfway through, we are learning basically at the same rate as you guys are, really. So if there's anything we don't know the answer to right now, we will take that away and find out the answer and come back to you. So yeah, the floor is now open, and if there's any questions, fire them away, ideas, whatever it might be. If there's nothing, then you are welcome to slip off and catch Coronation Street.
Yeah. Hi, David. Hi, David.
Hi,
Andrew here from Hungable. Thanks for the presentation. Very useful. I just had a quick question about that school guidance form. Is my understanding correct that if a school wants to, and maybe you've said it and I didn't quite catch it, if the school wants to have an activity happening during curricular time, that they have to apply themselves? Is that correct in that they use a form that has to show how the activity, the reasoning for bringing an external provider and how that fits with their curriculum? So almost to justify, why aren't you doing this yourself? Why do you need an external provider? And how does that fit with what you should be delivering in school?
Yeah, essentially. So it doesn't matter who applies. So the school can apply or the external provider. I mean, I think the one thing that we've found through experience is that when the school applies, a lot of that thinking around how that links to their curriculum or whatever they're doing has already been done. Sport New Zealand's guidance is to have that guidance document done, and as a kind of repeating a bit, we want to really make sure that whatever's being delivered in that school space aligns to what the school is doing, you know, with what their curriculum, what their school values are, etc. So that's the reason they would definitely still do it. It's definitely not a means by which to, you know, catch them out or anything. It's just to make sure that thinking's being done, really.
Sure.
But yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, no problem. Any more questions from anyone? Any ideas? Any just general kōrero that anyone's wanting to know any more information on?
Hey Dave, sorry, I'm just going to try and find my video. Oh, here we go.
Oh, there you are. Okay.
So this is a real random one. So we're looking at it because we're in an RSO situation, and then we have the netball centres, right? And basically what we find the challenges with the netball centres is that they don't actually have the resource to apply for these funds in the first place, and to do all of the background work that's needed to, you know, to get those insights, to connect with all the, you know, the community groups and the schools, and bring all of that together. So is there any opportunity for a regional sports organisation to apply for the fund for, say, a participation lead person who is actually going to spend the time to connect all of the dots and get the relationships and pull it all together, what the project is going to look like? And so that person would be funded, and then train the people and work with the, say, the netball centres to then apply for those participation activators to go in and actually do the grow participation part.
Yeah, no, good scenario. I think, I mean, we're totally aware that that's something that is needed, right? That whole insight gather piece, and that's no mean feat in terms of the time and, you know, to get out and do that. My sense is that probably won't be able to be funded by this fund, but I will get back to you on that, because I think I kind of understand the scenario, and there is a little bit of a grey area at the moment around that relatable cost for a project that I just mentioned before, right? So if they're directly working upon gathering insights to deliver whatever it might be, then, you know, potentially there's the opportunity to do it. But I'm not going to say yes. I'm probably erring on the side of no ever so slightly at the moment, but let me get the kind of final word on that and get back to you about that, if that's okay.
Because there's a huge opportunity for cross-code collaboration, but it takes so much time.
Absolutely, absolutely.
People out there to do that.
Yeah, and I think there's a role also for the regional sports trust as part of our kind of general business, I guess, if you want to call it, around being able to gather some of those insights that some of these sports are looking for, right? I mean, people like yourselves, any of you in this room actually should be able to come to the regional sports trust and say, hey, look, I'm really looking to target these groups. Where are the kind of places I should be going? Who are the people I should be talking to? And what kind of information can I get hold of? So, so yeah, Karen, let me get back to you on that, because I think that's a really kind of valid question, and yeah, we'll do that ASAP.
Yep, thank you.
Cool.
I just got a question here. It's Ivan.
Ivan.
If you're a regional sports organisation or represent regional sports organisations, so similar to Karen, we operate across the RST boundaries, but you've got projects that will be specific to individual local RST areas.
Yep.
Do we apply within those local RSTs for the local RST fund, or do we have to apply for the regional fund because we happen to be a regional organisation?
Yeah, no, Ivan, you can do whichever one you please. I mean, I guess the added complication potentially could be if you applied to all four, that you'd have four different kind of relationships. And I guess that's partly what the regional fund was set up to do, was to help that kind of one conversation rather than having kind of four or five. So it's kind of up to you. I mean, I would probably suggest going into the regional fund, because that is one conversation, and, you know, we all come together and have that conversation about what's going on. But if you feel like you want to apply locally, and you feel like that might potentially be a higher likelihood of getting the funding, I don't really have a kind of a call on that really, but you're welcome to do that. There's no necessarily any guidance either way, other than how much administration potentially do you want to do? You know, do you want to do 4 applications and, you know, 4 contracts and all the rest of it? But yeah, that's kind of up to you a bit, Ivan.
So if you just, sorry, quick follow up on that. So
yep.
if you do apply for the regional fund, will Active actually bring the RSTs together to have a conversation as a collective around your application, or will they just consider it in isolation of the local RSTs?
So the process, as I understand it at the moment, is we will be brought into a conversation to understand who has applied to the regional fund and give some guidance around, maybe what we know, etc. It's actually an independent advisory group that kind of makes the decision around where the fund goes. But once the funding has been approved, which hopefully it will be, that then breaks out into a conversation, probably on a more locally level, where you talk about maybe a delivery plan for that funding. So the expectation would be then, I guess, that you might then have a conversation with kind of Sport Waitākere about, hey, we're looking to go into these schools or into these clubs or whatever it might be, and we can help guide that conversation if you need it to come up with your delivery plan and support that.
Yeah, okay, makes sense.
Cool. No worries. Any other questions, guys and girls?
Yeah, Dave, I don't have a question. I'd just love to talk to Karen's point earlier about the cross-code space, and that super excites me. I look at everyone in this chat here today, and I just really think that is a super exciting opportunity for everyone to put their thinking caps on and work out how they could work with each other potentially. Not everyone, obviously, but it just really opens up the doors, and I think there's some really exciting things that could happen in this space when we talk about collaboration, whether it's cross code or active recreation and play and sport and all of those types of things. So look, I'm really interested to explore that further as well, and if you are interested, please do drop me a line, and we might get everyone together and throw some ideas around on a whiteboard or something one day where we can all drink coffee at the same time, and away we go.
Yeah, as long as it's coffee, Mick. Yeah. Good on you. Yeah, good call. I think there's a lot of conversations going on in the background at the moment about everything from even facility sharing. I mean, Netball Waitākere is a kind of a good example where they've got an amazing space. There's there's grass out one side, big courts. They've got the indoor space, the tennis courts right next door. So that doesn't necessarily mean that only netball and tennis can operate out of there. Like, what's the opportunity for other things? And we're more than happy to have those conversations, across the board. So to Mick's point, if people have those ideas and there's a particular facility they're keen to access or that they need support accessing, even schools, then yeah, definitely pick up the phone or drop us an email, and we'll definitely entertain those conversations and point you in the right direction.
One more quick random question, if you don't mind. So if for instance, we had a facility and we were going to let the community use it free of charge, and that was our project, to let people in and to get people, at the beach and active and doing whatever they want. Could we then charge our fixed costs to this fund? So for the time that it was open to whatever project it was we were using?
I don't think you could charge, so you can't charge, like your electricity bills and things like that. But kind of my sense is you could charge a facility hireage fee. So if you were going to, if I turned up there tomorrow for a birthday party and I wanted to hire your venue, would that cost, $150 an hour or something? That would be a fee I would suggest you could charge. That's the actual hireage fee, right? So not the, we're charging $20 for insurance and $50 for electricity bill and whatever else. But yeah, I don't see that as being a problem. I mean, it's a real cost, right? If someone's coming to use a facility, I think just the erring on the side of caution about, how that project is placed, I guess, because ultimately if you own the facility and you are kind of, I guess, bringing people in and you're offering the facility up, then, are you offering the facility up in reality, or actually are you just kind of charging it, and is it a money-making thing? We just got to be careful of that. That's all. Yeah. But yeah, no, I mean, every venue that we work with, community sport venue and community venue, has a hireage fee, generally speaking. So that's a real cost for an activity to happen. So that would be a valid thing to apply for.
Cool. Thank you.
Okay, team. It is 6:28. So we've managed to go just under an hour. That's exceptional. unless anyone's got any more questions, which obviously we put this planning session in for well, it was 2 hours. I knew it wasn't going to go 2 hours. I'm not sure anyone can listen to me for 2 hours. If anyone hasn't got any more questions, then as I say, you're welcome to slip off. Thank you very much for coming. There's a bunch of email addresses you'll see on the screen there. However, we have quite a few staff in our place, and Mick obviously mentioned before, and all of those email addresses are on our website on the Who Are We tab about us. So if there's no more questions, no more ideas, nothing anyone wants to discuss, just throw out there with this idea work or whatever, then as I say, thank you for coming. Have a great night, and we look forward to your application before Monday the 12th of October. And we will I will send out the application form. I'll send out the presentation, all of the other information that's on our website. I'll put a link into that. Yeah, if you've got any questions, then please do just, as I say, pick up the phone. Literally, it's our job to try and get this money out the door to you guys. So if you want support accessing the money, come and speak to us and we'll help you get access to the money. Cool. Otherwise, ka kite, thank you for coming, everyone. And we will hopefully be seeing your names dropping into our application inbox very soon. We'll hang around for another 10 minutes till everyone's gone. If anyone has any questions they want to ask us on the slide.
Hey, kia ora, David. Can you hear me?
Mate. Yeah, mate. Go for it.
Well, mate, hey, I'm sitting here and I got really excited last night and I filled out my form.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
So now I'm like, oh, geez, I hope because it's a one-time thing. Straight afterwards, I was like, can I make an amendment to that? So I suppose I'll hear back about that. So if there is some advice saying, hey, we need a bit more clarity around a certain area, are we able to, to reapply that and just straight away reapply for that?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, one of the things I want to be really clear on is that this isn't once you've applied, you didn't have the information, mate, you're declined, you're done. That's absolutely not what we're looking for. In fact, you're the first one in. You're the first one we've got. So congratulations on that honour. But we will have a look at it. And if there's any information we need, what we'll do is we'll probably take it offline and then have a conversation with you and then re-upload the bits and the required bits that we need. There will be a relationship manager, so basically someone in the organisation will touch base with you about that and we'll have a discussion. So probably in the next maybe 48 hours, we'll touch base with you, we'll talk to you about what that looks like, and then we'll make sure that whatever information you need to kind of top up your application, we'll get that sorted and whatever you need.
Yeah, awesome. It's amazing, eh? It's pretty exciting to see so many people with
yeah, for sure.
Years, and the people that we can provide these experiences to, it seems pretty amazing, eh?
Yeah, I mean, we're really excited about the broadness of it, really. Eh? So we, I mean, you could argue maybe we're a bit poorly named Sport Waitākere, because we certainly for a long time have worked across that active recreation and that play space. So to now be able to back that up with funding to support organisations who do that stuff, for us, that's super exciting, because we can really start to support our wider community rather than maybe just some of those more specific organised sporty type people who obviously we can continue to support because they're still there and doing an amazing job, but certainly it broadens our horizons a little bit in terms of who we can throw that support net out to. So now we'll be in touch very soon, mate, and go through whatever we need to go through to add any extra bits and pieces to your project to get it over the line.
You gold. Hey, thank you guys so much for your time tonight. Have a good one, eh?
No problem. Thanks a lot, mate. Yourself too.
Bye.
Okay, no more questions. I think everyone's just saying thank you. It's good. Hit the nail on the head, I think. Okay, anyone else? How many have we got left in the room? There's a few left around. Steve, I notice you're still in. You haven't got any questions? Steve Trim, Raj from Community Waitākere, Christy. What else have we got? Shabir. Feel free to fire out any questions, team. Here to help. Jennifer. No, cool.
Dave, I did have a question.
Hi, Christy. Yeah, go for it, mate.
Sorry, I'm cooking dinner. So if we're delivering in schools, did you say we need to meet with the school to make sure like we're meeting those curriculum areas? Does that have to be done before the application?
Yeah, ideally, because I mean, I guess the issue is that if you put in an application, you haven't talked to the school yet. We've got no evidence that what you're delivering is what that local need. You know, where those insights come from. So, I don't think it should be a particularly laborious process. It should be, you know, they understand what you're doing, they understand the place for it in the curriculum or wherever they want to deliver it, and it's about articulating that effectively to make sure that, you know, it does all line up. And as long as it does, then, you know, you're away laughing. We just need to make sure that's done. But yeah, answer your question, absolutely, I think before so it gets submitted with the application.
Okay, sweet. Awesome, thanks, Dave.
Christy. Okay. Shabir, I don't want you to feel like you're the last one. You and Steve, any questions, or we'll knock it on the head there? Okie dokie.